end of the old and the beginning of the new chapter of college football. The USC UCLA thing, this probably was already a fait accompli with Oklahoma and Texas going to the SEC, which had been announced, what is that now, a year ago, however long ago we found out that was happening. That was when those of us paying attention to this knew we were coming to this. But had there been any question, had there been any doubt, had there been any chance that any semblance of the old model would remain in place into the future, this ends it. USC and UCLA are the West Coast of college football, to be clear, historically. And maybe in recent years, Oregon has been better, and Stanford's had good years. A lot of teams in the Pac-12 that are good. Washington has been really good over much of the last 20 years. But from a brand perspective, the West Coast of college football is USC and UCLA. And so when you lose that, it's over. So what we are now clearly heading towards, this is my reaction to all of this, what we are now hurtling toward is a world in which there are either 2 or 3 conferences, call them whatever you want. You want to call them super conferences, call them whatever you want. College football as we know it will be divided into 2 or 3 divisions, much in the way that pro sports are, actually exactly in the way that pro sports are, and that's the point. College football is now, in every way that matters, a professional sport. Quarterbacks are signing 6-figure endorsement deals. Teams are teaming up. Everyone's going where the money is. That's the definition of professional, right? Professional is something you're getting paid for. Professional is an endeavor in pursuit of financial reward. So let's put into notion or put out of our minds the idea that there's anything else going on here. Like it, don't like it, doesn't matter. Good or bad, doesn't matter. That's what's happening. College sports are now just another element of professional sports, just a different division, a different league. They're going to make as much money in college football as any of these other sports besides the NFL. So, what will it ultimately lead to? I'm not exactly sure. If I had to bet on it, I would bet it will become much as pro football and pro basketball and pro baseball and pro hockey are. It will become 2 leagues, 2 conferences, whatever it is. Call them whatever you want. At this point, the likely suspects appear to be the Big Ten and the SEC. I don't know. Those brands are so strong, maybe they keep those names. Now, I mean, for those of us who are Big Ten alums, it has long since seemed ridiculous that the Big Ten has had 14 teams. They're on the verge of having 20, 24, 28, something like that. Can they still be called the Big Ten at that point? Who knows? What difference does it make? Call it whatever you want. But that will be one subdivision, and the other will be the SEC, and that will have 20, 24, 28 teams in it. And they'll figure out ways to play off amongst themselves, and then there'll be a postseason, and there'll be a championship. Does that sound exactly like anything you're familiar with? Yeah. Sounds exactly like the NFL. Sounds exactly like the NBA. And that's exactly what it is. College football is now that. Or at least it's on its way to being that. They just have to figure out how they're going to do it. Now, I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing. I'm inclined to think it's a bad thing, but I think that's because I'm almost 55 years old. I've grown up with the old way. I still feel some of the old allegiances. I still feel for some of the tradition. Some of the things that may have made collegiate sports historically special to me are going to cease to exist, and I tend to think that's a bad thing. But I'm probably wrong, because in the long run, they're not worried about what my generation thinks of this. They're worried about what all the future generations think of this, and that generation, like take my son, for example, he's 19. He doesn't remember a time. He goes to school in the Big Ten. He doesn't remember a time when the champion of the Big Ten just played the champion of the Pac, now 12, in the Rose Bowl, and that was the biggest game of the year. When I was at Northwestern, I would rather have won the Rose Bowl than won the national championship, which was mythical then anyway. That's just not the world we live in anymore. So I think those of us who want to stand up and say this is bad, I think the only response to that is, Tough luck. If you want to be a college sports fan going forward, this is what it is going to be.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.